It's time for our deep dive, celebrating the 20th anniversary of national security. Currently on Netflix, if you want to check it out. Todd,
Wow.
tell us all about national security and your experience with it.
Yeah. Anybody who listens to this podcast knows I'm a sucker for a buddy cop movie. This was right in the era when I watched, like, there were a ton of these, and I watched this one a lot. Like, I've seen this north of 30 times. It's awesome. It's directed by Dennis Duggan, the Adam Sandler aficionado director, and it's about Hank Rafferty, who gets his partner dies in the opening scene, and then he gets in some trouble because there's a video of him sort of looking like he's assaulting this security guard named Earl Montgomery, played by Martin Lawrence, and he goes to jail, and then they end up both being security guards and wrapped up in this big scheme after he gets out. Despite both of them really wanting to be there, or I guess at least Hank not wanting to be there. And I think this movie is the perfect 2000s comedy. It has everything that you want from like a buddy comedy and a buddy cop movie. I think it's hilarious. There are lines in every single scene that I think are absolute classics. I don't understand how you could not look at this movie or how you can look at this movie and not see like relevance to it as well, even like more relevance than you could have seen then. And it's got Eric Roberts in it, of course, and he's the man. Give this man a job, even though he's got like 30 movies coming out this year or something. I don't know. I think it's the best use of Martin Lawrence's talents. I've never really been a big fan of his except for this movie. I think he's hilarious, and I think that he fits this role better than almost any actor could. And Steve Zahn is fantastic. The supporting cast is like all character actors, people you've seen before, but not necessarily like big stars. But I think it works really well. It's one of the great comedies of 2003.
Todd, I can't remember. Did we rent this first and then we bought it, or did we buy it first? Because you have this on DVD. You're the one.
Yeah.
You're the one that got the DVD in the divorce.
I don't remember if we rented or not. Yeah. I know, yeah, I was obviously the bigger fan of the movie. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, yeah. So this movie we watched at the same time, and I haven't seen it near as much as you have. This is probably the first time I've watched this movie in maybe 15 years. I said earlier. Yeah. It's a dumb movie. It's really dumb. It's one of those movies for me though that, because of when I watched it and how many times I watched it when I watched it in my life, it has that nostalgia to it for being a dumb movie. But it's with that said, it's a lot of fun. Because I've grown up with it kind of. I mean 2003, that's the year I graduated high school. It there's something to that era of your life that you just hold stuff with that nostalgia to it. So, I mean, I watched it this morning and I'm like, oh man, I forgot. And I remember it was like the same reaction I had originally. I'm like, this movie's so dumb. But then
it's
as I was
dumb.
But then I was watching like, oh yeah, I forgot that part's kind of funny. Oh yeah, I forgot that part's kind of funny too. Zach, tell us about your first time watch of your worst movie of 2003.
Well, listen, I mean, this is obviously the Four Loko of 2003 movies. If it makes you feel like you're 17 again, then more power to you. But when you're watching this movie for the first time as a 36-year-old, I just turned 36 this week, it's kind of sad and depressing. I don't know what to say about it. There have been deep dives that we've done in movies I didn't like before. We did LA Confidential. We did Sin City. We've done a few movies I'm not a huge fan of, but at least those movies, like you could like say like LA Confidential, I'm not a fan of, but like obviously the cinematography in that movie's great and there's good performances and it's well directed. This movie, I'm at a loss. I can't think of any noteworthy, like even I know we did Naked Gun 33 1/3. Okay. I mean, I unabashedly love that movie. It's probably my version of how Todd feels about this movie, but like that movie had some genuinely great moments. This movie, I can't even think of moments that were funny. Like it was so bad. I know I'm lame. I'm a square. I get it. But like, I really wanted to like this movie. Here's the thing. I actually think Martin Lawrence is funny. I mean, I will watch his show. A talented actor. He's been really good in some movies. Big Mama's House has its moments. He was really good in the remake of Death of a Funeral. But like, this movie is just, he's so annoying in this movie. If he doesn't win Punchable Face, then we ought to retire the award. And Steve Zahn is just so like bland. I mean,
he's perfect. That's exactly what he needed to be.
John C. Reilly is the only other actor who could have played it, and like he's given so little to do because he's just the foil for Martin Lawrence. But give Martin Lawrence better lines. Like maybe try to come up with something that's more witty and innovative than just that. Police force or white people and black people get victimized. I mean, a little bit of that rhetoric goes a long way. Even Tarantino realized that with the Ordell Roby character and Jackie Brown. I really wanted to like some of the supporting characters. I like the lady in the car that they hijack, or carjack. Like, she could have been a bigger character. I like Denise, his girlfriend. Again, could have been a bigger character. Maybe this movie just needed more women in it. I'm at a loss to understand what the plot of this movie was. It was really hard to stay with it. I think it involved the theft of soda, but I could be wrong. I'm not really sure. Then there was like this Inception-like scene where they're on a bridge and then the van drives off the bridge for some reason, but they land in a trash heap. The movie is like so lackadaisical. And did anyone like even put thought into the plot? Probably not. Because I get that the movie's
it's more complicated than you think, and that's what I always thought was funny. Because like there were times I watch it, I'm like, what? Oh, okay, that's how that goes together. Okay.
I'm at a loss. I gave it 1 star, which I think is generous.
And that makes it your worst of 03. I think I have like 5 0-star movies.
Well, get this. You know what my second worst of 03 is? This is interesting because it's a movie I don't think is as bad as
Charlie's Angels Full Throttle.
No, I've not
Daredevil.
I've not seen McGee's classic. I haven't seen Daredevil either. It's Bruce Almighty. I never thought that was funny. So maybe it's my fault. If I don't find National Security and Bruce Almighty funny, then I should be banished from the podcast, a la Terry, being banished with his slow internet. So
yeah.
And my bottom 5 is a Steve Zahn movie, Daddy Daycare.
Nah, see, I didn't see that. See, I was a little pretentious fop back in 2003. I only listened to Roger. And I was
still in high school. Yeah,
I was still in high school. I only saw movies that Roger gave thumbs up to. Roger didn't even review this movie. I mean, this came out like in the middle of January. He didn't even review it, so I would have never seen it.
That's disappointing.
I mean, another thing that has to be mentioned. I mean, this movie could never be made today. It is definitely a product of the time. I don't
know. I think that I think it has the makings of something that makes fun of hot button issues in a way that is spoof like, but actually kind of like perceptive.
I mean, I want to have a sense of humor about it, but like opening the movie with the carjacking /B/police brutality scene was just like, you can't watch that movie.
That was like 20 minutes in.
Well, okay, whatever. I mean, it was at the beginning of the movie. Yeah. I don't know. That obviously did not age well, but
it rubbed you the wrong way is what it did.
Right, but I'm trying to look past it. Like, obviously this is a movie that was not aware of that in the world in 2003. I get it. I get that it was living in sort of this kind of Rodney King universe.
It was ahead of its time, is what you're saying. Way ahead of its time. Well,
I don't know if I would use those words, but it was fortuitous, I guess, in some respect.
Come on. Okay, think about it. Like, there's a cop attacking somebody, and it's filmed on something, and regardless of what the circumstances are, you're going to see only what the people are going to base the perception on what you see in the video. Is that not exactly what we went through?
Listen,
I don't know.
I would be prepared to give this movie a break if it was funny. Like, there's stuff in Naked Gun 33 1/3 that has aged horribly. There's like transphobic stuff, there's racist stuff in it, but like
that's not even a good movie though.
But that movie was that's why it's my version of National Security. I find
it's a perfect comparison.
Hilarious. But I give it a break for that because I think the writing is sharp and the performances are great. This movie was just flat. There wasn't anything funny in it. Like, what? Is this I can't remember what the category is. Do we have a funniest scene? Like, what moment of this movie was laugh out loud funny? I couldn't find it. The product placement maybe was pretty funny at times. I'm trying
Yeah.
to be a good sport. You know what? I appreciate it. I appreciate that we are the only podcast out there delivering this content because God forbid, another podcast doing a national security deep dive. This is all us. It's on brand. So let's do
Well,
it.
and it's easy. If you haven't seen it before, like I said, you can easily find
It's
it on Netflix.
apparently.
And,
News
or
to
you
me.
can pay $4 on Prime. I mean, either
God.
way.
Or you could
works.
probably buy the DVD for less than $4.
You probably
Get all
could
the
go to
special
Walmart
features.
and get it for 99 cents plus tax. It's probably one of those double feature DVDs. Probably with like Blue Streak. It's like a 2-pack. You know.
It's at this point it's probably a 4-pack.
Yes.
I mean, 4-pack
Daddy
for
Daycare.
99 cents.
Yeah, maybe Big Mama's House 2. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
I'm surprised that you guys like this movie so much. I gotta be honest. I don't remember talking about when Todd suggested this movie. I was not aware of how deep and meaningful it played a role in your lives at such a formative age.
Oh, I quote this movie out loud or to myself all the time, regardless of whether people know it or not. Similar I do with Sideways.
I did like Eric Roberts' hair. I will say that was something in the movie I was not expecting and that I really did appreciate. He kind of looked like Christopher Walken in that one Bond movie that he did, where he View to Kill.
Yeah.
There's a bit of a blonde villain sort of vibe to him. I liked it.
Alternate title for the movie. My alternate title for this movie is DWB.
That's not bad. I said what the problem is.
Yeah.
I mean, this is right around when he did What's the Worst That Could Happen, so it's just another movie with a question mark in it.
I went with Sad Day in Caucasian History. But I would also be willing to go with It's Free on Netflix.
All right. Highest war performance goes to who, Todd?
It's Steve Zahn. At the time, he was doing a lot of bad comedies, but he was actually a really serious actor, and he takes this movie so seriously, and it's because of his performance that it really works. He was a hard one to come up with anybody who who would actually appear in a movie like this, but also would put everything into it that he's almost method acting, and I think he's fantastic.
Okay, but listen, can we talk about the Steve Zahn filmography for a second? Do you think this is this career pinnacle for Steve Zahn?
Well, no, he's actually he's in a lot of really good stuff.
He is. He was great in Rescue Dawn.
I was gonna say the career pinnacle. I think is Rescue Dawn. He could have been Oscar nominated for Rescue Dawn.
My wife watched it and she said, "Hey, there's the dad from Diary of a Wimpy Kid." So there's that.
Yeah.
But I think what most people know it for today for is Steve Zahn on The White Lotus. I've seen a couple episodes of White Lotus. He is very good on that show. So he is experiencing a little bit of a career renaissance, and therefore maybe it is justified to do this deep dive to get the hits and likes because everybody loves The White Lotus.
I think my favorite thing that Zahn was in was the Linklater movie Suburbia. That probably is the thing I like. I mean, I guess he's in Out of Sight. I forgot about that. He does just have a lot of things that he appears in, but this is one of his
Out of Sight. You know what? He's pretty
starring roles.
He's pretty good also in the Drew Barrymore movie, Riding in Cars with Boys. Oh,
Highest War.
Okay, Leslie Jones. Clearly,
I didn't even realize she was in this movie, and then I'm watching
yeah. She was great.
Is that Leslie Jones?
She was great. She woke me up. I mean, she didn't have a lot to do because the screenwriters weren't smart enough to realize her comic talent. But as Brittany. First of all, that could also be the minor character. She's fascinating.
All right. My highest war is Eric Roberts. Because it's Eric Roberts. And just to bring this all full circle, just maybe right around this same time, Eric Roberts started a Mariah Carey music video where he was left at the altar because Mariah Carey chose to go with Wentworth Miller. Bill Paxton Memorial worst performance of the film goes to who, Zach?
Martin Lawrence.
Come on.
I have the same answer. Martin Lawrence.
Wow.
I think there's a lot of Chris Rock. Now he would have brought something to this movie. I think he would have had better energy. He would have been less annoying. Obviously, this is a sad imitation of Eddie Murphy, but it's just it gets so much on your nerves, and that's not what the character's supposed to do. You're supposed to like the character. I think you're supposed to like him. I'm not sure, but that's a testament to the fact that it was miscast. And
All right, I had him written down as worst performance too. I feel
think
like
it was
he
pretty
has
bad.
line readings in this where he doesn't even realize he's in a movie. He's just saying the
Yeah.
words. Like the one when they're on the stakeout and he's like, I wanted to do a stakeout ever since, or I wanted to be a cop ever since I saw Quincy on TV. It's like Quincy was a medical examiner. Well, we lived in the projects, so we got bad reception. And
Well,
the way he says it, but the way he says it, it's like he's just saying a line. It's not like he's even worrying about what he's saying. I mean, it's just not good.
Exactly, Terry. And that plays in. That's why that line is so funny. When do you even believe the crap that comes out of your mouth? And he says, "I'm never really sure until I'm finished talking." It's because everything he says is just like spur of the moment, and that's what just his reaction was to have that. I mean, yeah, that's what he does the whole movie, and it's funny.
You're defending it way too much. You're putting more thought into this character than Martin Lawrence put into it when he played it.
There's a reason why that line is funny. It's because of that. Every time you hear him talk, you're just like, "What the hell is he even talking about?" And that's why it's funny.
Todd, who's your worst performance?
I said John Flaherty. I don't know. He's the guy who's like introducing them to being security guards. He's also
Joe
like,
Flaherty.
Joe Flaherty. What did I say? John.
Yeah.
John, whatever. Either one. Well, yeah, he's I don't know. You probably most know him from Happy Gilmore, I guess. But I don't know. His line delivery. His line delivery isn't great in this, and there aren't any real bad performances. But that's one I'm just like, okay, whatever. You could have had anybody else do that.
Amazing Larry, Big Tim, High Roller, minor character of the movie. I had Brittany written down, but I'll go with a different one since that's already been mentioned. I had fun looking at all the people I recognize in this, so I went with Heston, played by Brett Cullen, who is the one and only Capcom, who's taken all his Johnny Cash records to the moon with him on Apollo 18.
Nice.
Yeah,
Is that what that guy's from?
Yeah, the guy at the beginning who's
he's from Apollo 13.
Andy in Apollo 13.
Andy and Apollo. No, I don't think he's Andy. Andy's the redhead.
That's
the
Glenn.
other one.
No,
is
Andy,
that Glenn?
Yeah, I'm right.
No. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm right.
I think you're wrong, but we'll go with that. Anyways, yeah, he's the one that the Academy guy who gets in the car when Earl gets in the car and gets chased and knocked down and handcuffed. Time. That's Brett Cullen. Yeah. He's who I'm going with. Either him or Robert Barton, played by Matt McCoy, because he's from Police Academy.
I thought you were going to go with the guy who plays Ned Ryerson, the Billy
Ryerson. Yeah, he's another great one too. Todd.
Or Hector, of course. Although he's just listed as the Latino convict. I like.
You have no name. You have no shot.
You have a name. I like Lola. She also could be mentioned on our stripper list if I would have thought of that a couple weeks ago. I think that she's so committed to her game that she's playing with Earl that she just is like totally cool with it for like, I don't know, must have been like a half an hour where she's just like, oh, you're really going all out on this one, aren't you, Earl? You know, and like, I don't know, she's really into it, calling him officer and everything. She's a fun character. I want to know how they met. That's what I want to know.
Why was she, I missed why she was there. I didn't understand what she was doing there, but
because he wasn't doing his job and he invited some girl over to his warehouse where he's supposed to be on security duty.
Well, he's not a love breaker; he's a love maker. So
yeah, there you go.
It really is interesting looking at this cast. I will give okay, Margaret Travolta is interesting. Jeff Ross as a security guard. I didn't realize that. That's fascinating.
That was the opening scene that he was in.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing him in the movie.
No, Lompoc.
Hey, you did time in Chino, right? Lompoc. Hey, buddy. Hey, man. Try dude. Hey, dude.
See, ex-cons, all they can get is a security job.
That's
why that's funny when he becomes a security guard, because he was an ex-con after that. But you don't get that because he didn't want to be cop. Because he fell asleep.
God, what's the over/under on total number of cops and security guards that have been played by this cast over the course of their careers? I mean, it's got to be like 647, right? I mean, it's very high.
692.
Well, we're talking about number 8.
Yeah.
Glenn and Andy. They're totally different characters. They don't look anything alike. They're in different parts of the movie.
I'd look it up, but I can't, or else I get kicked off of my internet.
Yeah. Another interesting cast is Wayne Morse as bailiff, because in Eugene, where I grew up, there's a Wayne Morse Park. So I wonder if it's the same Wayne Morse. But,
obviously named for him.
Yeah.
They're big fans of this movie.
I'm sure they were.
Eugene.
I went with Cleo King as the woman in the car. She seems really nice. You know, she it's almost like the scene in Pulp Fiction when the wolf comes in and Samuel L. Jackson's like, he didn't even really get all that mad. I mean, she didn't really get all that mad at them. Like, she was pretty calm and she drove them to where they needed to go. She also plays Marcy in Magnolia, which is where John C. Reilly, who should have been Steve Zahn, also played a cop. So again, full circle, minds blown. Cleo Jones is the minor character for this movie.
Cleo King.
What did I say? Cleo Jones?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, that's obviously a great character, and that's a great scene. Yeah. To the point that Earl wants to, he's like, man, I should have gotten her number. She was very nice.
Todd loves it. You want to give this movie 4 stars, don't you, Todd? Just do it. Just do it.
If you're talking how many times I've seen the movie, this is definitely in the top 10. So
Do you have anything written down for flaws?
Yes. Two things, but they're just like inaccuracy kind of things.
All right.
Okay, because I want to give Naked Gun 33 and a third 4 stars. So I get.
I thought you did.
I probably did.
All right, let's group the next group together. Todd, you're next. Swaggart, Stickman, Uncle Douchebag, and the Robert Forster Memorial Most Punchable Face Award.
Well, the douchebag, I said Heston, which
yeah,
because I mean, everything he says, he's just a dick, and you could tell that from the moment you see him, and then he just acts even more like a dick. Then Most Punchable Face, I have Jonathan Logren as the sarcastic cop, and the only reason that guy's in the movie is because it's a Dennis Duggan movie, but he's like, oh yeah, why are you gonna give us like a warning? Yeah. I'm just like, okay. And plus, he's all cross-eyed. He looks like he took a punch in the face already. And for his Stickman, I said, I mean, there's no real good candidates other than Earl. So I went with the carjacker at the end, just because he has that he has that look, that swagger, that he looks like he definitely can get it in more than almost any other character in this movie.
If they ever made a real life live action Beavis and Butthead, Jonathan Logren would have to be in it, right? Like, he would have to be one of the stars.
Yeah, that's true. I never thought about it, but yeah, he does have that's the Beavis laugh.
It is. All right, Zach, what do you have for these?
You're gonna have to. What are they again?
Stickman, Douchebag, and Punchable Face.
Okay, well, Punchable Face I already said was Martin Lawrence.
Yeah.
Maybe it's Todd for making us spend this much time on this movie. Stickman, I think I mean, maybe the Ice Cube looking guy in the middle, the brother.
Oh.
I mean, he looks pretty intimidating, and
and totally looks like
he's a good looking man.
Totally looks like Ice Cube.
He does look like, I thought it was Ice Cube. Maybe it is Ice Cube. I'm not sure. And then what was the other one? Douchebag?
Yeah.
Douchebag. Did you say obnoxious guy played by Tom Forrest?
No.
I'm going to go with Tom Forrest as obnoxious guy. I don't remember what that character is, but if he's obnoxious, he's probably a douche.
Wait,
I love it.
I don't know.
I don't know who that is
what
either.
That would even be in reference to.
But if his name is obnoxious guy, he's probably a douchebag.
If he stands out as being obnoxious in this movie, that you mean?
Yeah, exactly. That's impressive.
All right, my Stickman, I have Billy Narthax, played by Stephen Tobolowsky. I mean, the way he caresses that freshly flamed beer keg, you know he knows what's going on. Um, I don't know. I had no answer
That's a
for
good
that,
one.
so I just went with that. My douchebag is the sarcastic cop. He's a douchebag, and my most punchable face is Jeff Ross. More because he's Jeff Ross than anything.
I think we did one where Matt McCoy was our punchable face just because he was Matt McCoy, but I don't remember what movie we did.
Okay,
I'll
but
have
to
to look
come
that up.
full circle, wasn't Jeff Ross the one at the famous party, Jimmy Kimmel's famous party, where he got into a fight with cousin Sal and Tom Cruise made them like brokered a deal between them? You know that story, Todd? Like they were coming to blows about a fight. They were going to fight each other, and Tom Cruise broke up the fight, and his mom was there. I don't know. It's like a legendary Jimmy Kimmel story, but I don't know. Jeff Ross does have a punchable face.
He does, especially in this movie. Like he looks like he's drunk on the job in this movie. All right, let's see here. Best scene, and it falls to Zach first.
Oh God. Okay, I'll just say something that I wrote down because I haven't mentioned it yet, and I'm quickly running out of things to talk about. I was intrigued by the student driver. I've never seen a car that has both the driver and then the passenger with steering wheels. That was really
That's an old thing.
Was that a real thing?
Oh yeah.
That's a clever scene. You're right.
They did have those cars, but yeah, this is the first time I've ever seen it like dramatized like that.
It reminds me of, the best movie ever made about driving instruction, as Todd knows, is Happy Go Lucky. And it does kind of make you think the dynamics of that relationship might have been different had the guy been able to drive and not Sally Hawkins. But who controls it then? Does that mean that the instructor at the passenger side actually controls the car? Because that's what I was confused.
Well, I mean, that's why they're yanking back and forth, is because
they both have
equal control. Yeah.
That just seems like a terrible idea. I mean, you're supposed to be being a safe driver,
which is probably why it's an old thing.
Exactly.
Well, but they still have the thing where the passenger side has a brake pedal too, but it doesn't override the other side. It's just like you're supposed to just be like, hold on, and like take your foot off the pedal.
Are we assuming that there's no obnoxious 17-year-olds that think they know how to drive, but they don't? Like we could get into like a Walt Jr. Breaking Bad situation. Like, it can get really, really dangerous.
I'm sure it happens, but I mean, you've never heard about someone doing that when you're trying to get your license. Like,
I just thought the movie made it up because they needed to have yet another.
Well, they definitely didn't make it up.
Car chase. This movie didn't have enough car chases in it. It needed to have one more, and this time with 2 steering wheels. Anyway, that's my favorite scene. Classic.
See, I thought you were going to say that the best scene involving driving instruction was Chi McBride in Gone in 60 Seconds.
Oh, yeah. What was
you can't drive!
Yeah, that was a good one. You can't
parallel park! You can't negotiate turns!
No, obviously the best driving instruction scene is from Clueless. Because when Cher...
That's what I thought you were going to say.
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously, Girly, I'm the messiah of the DMV.
All right. I'll go with my best scene. I'm gonna go with the opening shootout when Charlie gets shot.
That was like the worst scene in the movie. I mean, I didn't even like this. What was I watching? That wasn't funny. Like, what was that? That looked like it was out of a Michael Mann movie or something.
Like immediately gets you invested in the character.
Well, yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Hank is played so straight that you actually care, like right off the bat. That's the whole point.
And no one said it yet, but shout out to Timothy Busfield for his 5-minute performance.
All right.
Yeah. What I love about that first scene is that, I've never seen a thing where a character is just so confused. Like, I'm not gonna I have like 3 ways I can go. They all look the same. I'm gonna choose one. He says, I'm going to go shoot the window, jump out of it, and go back to the start and run back in, like in a video game or something. Like that, I think is awesome.
Yeah, that was a pretty good call. Todd, what's the best scene?
It's got a lot.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's a bunch. I really like how at the storage facility when Earl and Hank are there, that it becomes like a Gatorade commercial or something when Earl's like shooting back at them and he's just got like like liquids just like flowing down his body. It looks like a weird basketball Gatorade commercial or something. But I think my favorite scene is when Washington is interrogating Earl and Hank, because there's parts where Earl's like almost cracking in his story, but then he's also just like, and he also is sort of playing Hank at the same time, and Hank's just sitting there just like, yeah, beating you, like he's just like gritting his teeth and stuff. Like it's great performances by all three actors. So that's my favorite scene probably.
It's a horrible pick. Okay.
What? You don't like that scene?
I don't know.
Opinion about national security. I mean, this is really causing a lot of friction on our podcast.
What's the Regal quote of the movie? I think this is pretty obvious. What the problem is. Like, that's the Regal quote of the movie.
Yeah, I mean, that would probably be the most recognizable quote.
Yeah.
Or yeah, I mean, we also have underrated line. They kind of have become the same
underrated
thing.
line. That's the "you are a dick" underrated line we can throw in here too. What do you guys got?
Well, I have a few written down. One is oh, you're a student driver, man with gun, get your ass up out the car. I think that I think that's a pretty clever line. And then the one that I never really noticed until like several times after watching it, or like really why he says it, is when Hank's attorney goes, "Move to strike," and then Martin Lawrence like, "Kiss my ass," and he's like ready to punch him. I was like, I never really put that together when I was like 14 watching this movie for the first time. Yeah, I don't know. And in my favorite scene, I just like how he's all talking about like his about how he got like knocked in the head, and he's like my doctor said you gotta push it, like like it's that sneaker or something. It's, I don't know. There's just countless of these like little lines that are just perfect.
Would the Regal line be what the problem is, or would it be what your name is?
He does say that.
I think it would probably be what the problem is.
What the problem is. I mean, he repeats it like it's
the last line of the movie.
It's the catch line.
Well, yeah, he has it probably like 6 or 7 times.
The underrated line is one that Todd and I used to quote all the time, and I forgot that we used to quote it all the time until I heard it watching it this morning. No, you are in the man.
You are in the man. I also like
that made me laugh.
Yeah, I mean, every time I watch that, I'm just like, yeah. Well,
even though it's a horrible climactic fight scene. A horrible climactic fight scene.
Yeah. And then they're on like some rock, like it's like the end of the first Metal Gear video game or something. I don't know.
After sensible.
I was thinking more like, how about you, Snake?
Yeah.
But I like when he says when they're on their stakeout and he's like, wait, we've only been up here for 12 minutes. No wonder cops are so fat. I just think it's funny. It's like, of course, your first thing I've been sitting here for like 12 minutes. I need something to eat.
Zach, did you have anything for
0?
No. Okay. What about
my style?
This like podcast has too many categories. That's would be my line of the day.
Nicole Kidman movie companion.
I agree. We have too many categories now. But
yeah, we do. I said for Nicole Kidman movie companion, I said Charlie and Hank. Because the two of them together, though, like at the beginning when they're hanging out together, they're having a lot of fun, and I think they'd be fun to hang out with.
Charlie does appear drunk, and he just seems like he'd be a lot of fun to be around.
Yeah.
I also wrote down the woman at the impound lot because she's really hot.
Well done.
Yeah.
She was also kind of a douchebag too, because yeah.
Well, she was being like watched by the cops. I don't think that was actually her.
Yeah. All right. If there were a sequel, I didn't have anything for this. Todd, did you?
I just think like just Earl and Hank as cops. I think it'd be fun to watch them again. It probably would be something similar to Let's Be Cops, but they actually would be cops.
Yeah. All right. Flaws, outdated conspiracy theories. Todd, you said you had
the
a
whole
couple.
movie is a flaw.
So it's really hard to come up with flaws for such a great movie. One thing I wrote was in that first scene when he says, "Charlie, you're 6," and he's like, "What?" He says, "You're 6," even though it was somebody right in front of him. So that would be his 12, not his 6. His 6 would be behind him. And that's probably why he's like, "What?" Is because like behind him was a wall, and he's like, "What the hell are you talking
Behind
about?"
him
My
was
6?
Hank.
Well, he was like looking at him. He's like, "You're 6," and it was like right in front of him, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I didn't see that guy there," but 6 would be behind him. And I also think that people who steal cars that have the keys in them are really dumb if they don't reach in and try to unlock the door and not reach for the keys. I've never understood that. Like,
Do people actually leave their keys in cars?
On accident, I'm sure.
That's what happened in my best friend's wedding when she was stealing the bread van or whatever. The keys were in the wind visor.
Also happened in Gone in 60 Seconds with the Cadillac Eldorado.
Oh yeah. But I just think, like, why did they reach for the keys? Just reach down and pull the thing. But
Unlock
okay.
the car.
Yeah.
That's a good call. Good call. Zach, did you have anything specific or?
Yeah, I did. It was just points. I actually did write down police impound yard chick, but I didn't write anything about her. I just wrote that down because there wasn't anything interesting. I just thought
she too hot to be a police
impound
yard chick.
I thought that when you saw her, I thought that there was going to be something that I would write about her, but I couldn't think of anything interesting to write about her. I just wrote her down. I wrote down Hank takes an LA City bus that resembles the bus in Speed. I don't really remember that scene, but I think he does take a bus that resembles the bus in Speed. Not the 25 bus, but I think the bus that Bob the bus driver blows up in at the beginning of the movie. Is it possible that Earl is just a black Adam Sandler? This feels like a very Adam Sandler type performance in 2003. Feels very Little Nicky, feels very Big Daddy, feels like the mean, nasty Adam Sandler.
Well, it is directed by Dennis Duggan. That's
right. That's the conspiracy theory. And then the only other thing I said was, not only is this a movie a knockoff of Lethal Weapon, it's also like a knockoff of Lethal Weapon, which is National Lampoon's Loaded Weapon 1, which also has almost like an identical plot to this movie, and also has like gratuitous slow-mo shootout sequences. But that movie thinks they're funny. I don't think this movie like has that sort of sense of humor. I think this movie's kind of playing it straight. So I think it's a parody of a parody in a way. But yeah, great holiday fun for the whole family.
LVP, MVP, and then let's move on and move out. I think is it me? I think it's me. LVP, I'm gonna go with the LAPD for giving Earl a badge. That at the end. That's my LVP. Because that was a bad move. My
one-man kung fu SWAT team.
Yeah, exactly. My MVP is solitary confinement. Because that saved Hank for 6 months. So that's what I'm going with. However, there's no way he would get out on time if he spent the whole time in solitary. Todd?
I have 2 LVPs. One is when he's Hank's lawyer because he's just terrible at his job, and the other one is Taylor, because his only role is to be the butt of the joke of, well, you said nice job, Taylor, and I just said so obviously he didn't do a very good job. And MVP is Martin Lawrence, the star and producer of this movie, and I think it's his finest hour.
Next to Captain Whack, but
what is that?
The Beach Bum.
Oh, that's his character.
Yeah.
Did you just look that up?
I did look it up. I did not know that off the top of my head. LVP of this movie, I had 2 LVPs. One was the Bumblebee for not doing a better job of singing Martin Lawrence, and the guy in the porta potty. Again, another thing I just wrote down. I have nothing else to say about that. And then my MVP was the person who spent all the time writing the Wikipedia page for this movie. Do you know how many paragraphs of plot synopsis are on the Wikipedia page? You want to guess? Like, what do you think the over-under is for that?
5?
This movie has 8 paragraphs worth of plot description on the Wikipedia page. I mean, that's some commendable shit right there, and it does lead to the conspiracy theory. Todd, did you write the plot synopsis? Are you the author of that Wikipedia page? Because I
conspiracy theory.
Like that took some real cojones to write that and actually follow this movie.
Well, see, but that contradicts what you said before. You said, I don't think anybody put any thought into this plot, but now you're saying like there was so much going on, you couldn't even understand the plot. So those are the opposites.
I think they can both exist. I think it can be overly complex and overly stupid at the same time. Kind of like our podcast.
Oh, well done.
Nice.
Well done. All right. Well, it's time for quote of the day. Zach, lead us off.
All right, my quote of the day comes from the #1 movie of the 2010s or 2020s so far, The Quiet Girl. It is the character of Sean who says, "You don't have to say anything. Many's the person missed the opportunity to say nothing and lost much because of it." And that definitely applies to our podcast.
Well done. Well done. The quote I was going to say has already been said, so I'll do something else. But I will say it definitely applies to this podcast, and that was going to be, do you actually believe all the crap that you say? I don't know till I'm done talking. I think that definitely applies to this podcast.
I think I've quoted that on this podcast before,
Probably.
even in that reference.
But the other, I decided if I wasn't gonna go with that, I'm gonna go with one of the honorable mentions for our Mount Rushmore of below 15% movies. That's Look Who's Talking Now. They call me, or what are you gonna name him? Rocks. Why? Because that's what he left in the back seat. There's that one. And then
Yes.
when the other dog asks him what his name is, he goes, "Me? They call me No." I've always remembered that line too. I thought it was a good line.
It's a hat.
It's
All right. Well, my quote's actually more serious. It is from my favorite critic, A.O. Scott. He recently quit the New York Times, and he left like his send-off letter, and he wrote in there something that is really profound. He says, "I'm not a fan of modern fandom. This isn't only because I've been swarmed on Twitter by angry devotees of Marvel and DC, and more recently Top Gun Maverick and Everything Everywhere All at Once. It's more the behavior of these social media hordes represent an anti-democratic, anti-intellectual mindset that is harmful to the cause of art and antithetical to the spirit of movies. Fan culture is rooted in conformity, obedience, group identity, and mob behavior, and the rise mirrors and models the spread of intolerant, authoritarian, aggressive tendencies in our politics and our communal life." And that is why he was the greatest movie critic that we ever had.
Go see Shazam 2, everybody.
Exactly.
Until you hear you shouldn't. I think is would go along with what he's saying. That's a great quote. That's a great quote. A.O. Scott was great. All right. Well, with that, we're going to draw this podcast to a close. Thank you guys so much for listening. We'll be back at you next week with another episode. Until then, have fun watching movies, and we'll catch you on the flip side.
Unfortunate day in Zach Salt's history.
Yes, it was.